In the midst of all of what is going on, including with the COVID spikes and so many other things, which we will talk about today, President Joe Biden's approval is soaring among independents. It is remaining high among Democrats. It is remaining low among Republicans, but it is increasing dramatically among independents, and also specifically on the issue of COVID handling, which now Donald Trump himself and many Republicans are actively antagonizing the Biden administration over, which we will also talk about today. Joe Biden getting, as Donald Trump likes to say, very high marks when it comes to the handling of the pandemic. So let's look at a couple of articles about these polls. First of all, Newsweek, Joe Biden's approval rating soaring among independents. Joe Biden's approval rating among independents has soared following a sharp decline at the end of June, according to an Ipsos survey. The Ipsos weekly approval tracker found that Biden's rating among independents stood at 52 in the latest survey. The president's overall approval rating is 53. Disapproval is 42. Biden enjoys 88% approval among Democrats. That's very close to within the margin of error. Down from 91. That's down 3 points, but the margin of error is 3.5. Approval among Republicans is up very slightly, 13 to 17. But the approval figure from independent voters is up sharply. It hit the last time Biden's approval among independents hit 50% was June 17th. He was down to 45%. Then he was down to 34% among independents at the beginning of July. That's the lowest in the survey since Biden took office. And then it recovered to 44 and now to 52. Why? The president enjoys high approval from independents on COVID pandemic with 59% approval, which is in line with his overall approval. That is a very, very good sign. Opinions on the president's performance follow party lines. 86% of Democrats approve on his COVID approach compared to just 33% of Republicans. But I will tell you, 33% approval on COVID from Republicans when they are COVID is being used as a weapon against Joe Biden by Republicans to say we can't trust the vaccines, which Trump is now saying. We will get to that. Too authoritarian when it comes to masking or vaccines or whatever the case. To still have 1 in 3 Republicans support you when disinformation is this weaponized, I actually think is still notable in some sense. Let's look at more data here. Biden gets 66% approval from Americans in pandemic handling. This is from a CBS News YouGov poll. 26% of Americans believe Biden is doing a very good job at managing the pandemic, but another 40% think he's doing a somewhat good job. Only 34% disapprove of Biden's COVID handling. Only 18% call it very bad. People said the country as a whole is doing a better job now at getting the coronavirus under control than what was going on in January. Polling from January and July flip-flopped. 64% now believe the pandemic is going well. Only 35% believed that it was going well back in January. So there's a few different takeaways here and important things. First of all, when you go to Republicans and you say, well, how do you explain this? It seems even through your propaganda, Joe Biden is doing well, particularly on this. Many of them will say, have you seen Joe Biden's YouTube live streams? And have you seen the downvotes? There's often, like 200 likes and 3,000 dislikes when Joe Biden live streams. It is of no meaning or value at all. This is what Republicans are doing. They call it brigading or ratioing Joe Biden's live streams, and they dislike them. It's not even a serious part of the conversation, but that's what they will say. Part of the reason that Joe Biden's approval isn't higher is that it has been a right-wing media concerted effort since Joe Biden was sworn in to simply assassinate character and make wild allegations about Joe Biden being a Marxist, communist, dictatorial, authoritarian. Right-wing media used to be 85% about character assassination and lies. It's now 99% about character assassination and lies. It's been a desperate race to see who can come up with the most outrageous lie about the, quote, Democrat Party and socialist Biden. In part, maybe because of the vacuum created by the death of Rush Limbaugh among right-wing media. Now, I do think there are some independents who maybe thought the lies about Joe Biden were true. Maybe Joe Biden was going to take their guns. Maybe Joe Biden was going to force them to be vegan. Maybe Joe Biden was going to force them to, flush toilets 10 or 15 times.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
Right. And it's not happening. And some of those independents are actually saying, oh, you know what? Maybe that was crazy and I never should have believed that. And Joe Biden's actually doing OK. As far as Republicans go, many of them are too far gone and too indoctrinated to change their views. But there seem to be independents that can see reason and they're coming over to say, I approve of Joe Biden and I approve of Joe Biden's handling of some issues. Now, the implications here are twofold. The immediate implications continue to be, what is the impact on people simply getting vaccinated? Because we're having trouble vaccinating our way out of the pandemic because of half of Republicans who don't want to get that vaccine. That's the immediate question. In terms of electorally, I think it's too early to take this information about Biden's approval and say anything about 2024. We don't even know if Joe Biden is running in 2024. It's just too early. It doesn't tell us anything. But we are starting to be able to glean some things about 2022. Typically in 2022, based on history, as we talked with Rachel Bitecofer, almost exclusively, you would expect Democrats to do poorly in the House, maybe in the Senate. That's the way it tends to go. Party takes the White House. 2 years later, they do poorly in the midterms. However, it may not be that way if Joe Biden continues to have what is, in the modern historical context, a high approval rating. Republicans really need swing voters to do well in 2022. The fact that independents are the group that is most heavily shifting from being against Joe Biden to being in favor of him, approving of him, that's not a particularly good sign for Republicans. Now, their answer might be, let's just suppress even more of the vote. And they're trying to do that by proposing more than 250 voter suppression bills across 40-something states. So we are starting to be able to talk about 2022, but still a long way to go before I would be comfortable saying, I think it'll probably be okay for Democrats, or it could be a bloodbath for Democrats. We don't know yet. We will have a clearer picture, I think, as we close in on September, where the 2022 races are expected to start going early. And speaking of by September, mid-August, August 16th, listen to this. It's the David Pakman Show, 16th anniversary, August 16th. We are going to be doing a one-day membership blowout on that day. I really hope that if you've enjoyed the show, or even if you don't, but you think there's some value in it existing, you can dislike me, but maybe you think the show has some value, some redeeming quality, some redemptive quality. Please get on my newsletter at davidpakman.com, because on August 16th, you'll get an email telling you how to take advantage of a one-day outrageous membership special. We'll take a quick break. Send me your thoughts about independents shifting to Biden on Twitter, where you can find me at dpakman.